All right, on this episode of Bowks Talking Bouts, very excited to be talking to an individual ahead of DBX1 Romero versus Hylton. Dirty Boxing Championship is going to be taking over. They had an inaugural event that was closed doors in nature. This is the first time it's open to the public, and this goes down on March 22nd. And one of the fights that was really catching my attention was Uly Diaz taking on Brian Maxwell, and great having Brian on Bowks Talking Bouts to talk a bit about that. How's it going, man? You having a solid day?
Yes, sir. How about yourself? I actually just got in from my second training session for the day. So I trained this morning from 11 to 1, and then I left town to travel an hour away to where my striking coach is and went down there for a couple hours to my second session for the day.
Nice. Where are you predominantly getting in workout of nowadays?
At my gym, it's called, well, we have three different names because there's three different, combat sports inside my gym. There's my gym, the main part is called Round 30 MMA, and then we have Big League Jiu-Jitsu, and then we have East Coast Muay Thai in our gym. Well, Coastal Muay Thai inside my gym too. So, it all works out pretty well for everything that we all do. And me being also a mixed martial artist, everything that's there helps out too, including boxing. But I go to a gym in Gretna to get my striking, and I also go to places like you may have heard of them, Tony Loco Soto at Loco Soto Boxing in North Carolina. I go there to train, and also go to Advantage Mixed Martial Arts in Princeton, West Virginia to train also while I'm
Yeah,
at
that's
fight
cool.
camp, I should say.
Yeah, that's cool. You mentioned Tony Soto. I noticed a fair bit you guys getting in work. I think I'd seen a picture on Instagram, I believe it was. I mean, just working with someone like that really has to up your level. I mean, you're obviously upping his great mutual work, but a former BKFC lightweight title challenger, that must really be helping you in a general sense. Like, obviously, this fight coming up isn't bare knuckle per se, but that caliber of combat sport athlete.
Yes, man, for sure. I actually was just down there a couple weeks ago. That's probably what you've seen on Instagram. And since I've been to Tony's gym since he's opened it several times, me and Tony are really good friends. We play Call of Duty together on Xbox and PS5. Um, Tony, I met Tony when he first got started into bare knuckle at the first Alabama tryouts, and I went down there to help out with the tryouts, and he was one of the guys in my tryout line that I helped Milts for. And I seen that he worked hard. He was good, and he's technical, very technical boxer, and he's a pretty accomplished MMA fighter also. And he was one of the guys that I actually picked to to advance in the tryouts. And ever since then, I mean, that's been my dog, man. Like that's my boy right there.
Yeah, I love to see the close knit ties and stuff like that and whatnot. I mean, you've made big waves in the bare knuckle scene yourself. Like I loved seeing that fight that you had with Harris Stephenson get such recognition to the scale that it was spotlighted by the bare knuckle Hall of Fame, and something that also I thought was kind of cool that ties into this fight in a certain regard. Like you'd had an Instagram post highlighting the fact that it was getting that Hall of Fame recognition, which well deserved. But I did see Uly Diaz in the comments saying congratulations, Warrior. So love to see that as well.
Yes, sir. Man, like that since I came into bare knuckle, that was one of my goals, is to be recognized by the Hall of Fame at some point in my career. Because when I came in, they were super heavy involved with BKFC. And I don't know what happened between the two entities of why they're not around too much anymore. But they still hold themselves to recognizing all bare knuckle fighters, and them recognizing me. And it was mentioned even in BKFC that that fight with Harris Stephenson was a candidate for fight of the year. And with the Hall of Fame choosing it as their BKFC Hall of Fame fight of the year, man, that was big to me. And it I ain't gonna lie, I actually kind of shed a tear when, Scott Burke messaged me and told me he kind of hinted at it. He didn't say it was going to be like their fight of the year, but he messaged me and was like, you know, uh, where can I get the video for you and Harrison's fight? And he found it, and then a week or so later, he messaged me and was like, y'all are one of my candidates for BKFC fight of the year, and then not too long after that, he messaged me, and that's when the flyers started coming out that we were his BKFC fight of the year. And man, it's a huge honor. Like I literally have a spot literally dedicated for that award and all my other, like mixed martial arts and bare knuckle stuff awards in one specific area. And that one sticks out the most for me because it was something that was accomplished right before my mother passed away. So that's super big and heavy for me. You feel what I'm saying?
Yeah, so she got to, see the Hall of Fame induction and stuff like that, you're saying?
It was recorded while I was there by one of my teammates. I took me and one of my teammates actually drove up there, and he recorded it for me. And my mom had dementia real bad, and so she was on the cusp of, I'm not gonna say on her way out, but of not remembering things all the time. And as soon as I got back, the very next weekend, I went to spend some time with her, and I showed her the video. And even though I knew she didn't really recollect it, I just looked at her face, and she had the biggest grin and the biggest smile on her face, and that's what made me happy.
I mean, that's incredible, man. I don't even really know what to say. Like, words don't really do something like that justice. That's so incredible. I'm glad that happened for you.
Yes, yes, sir. And with that big smile on her face, that, like I said, even though I know she wasn't all there, it still gave. She didn't even have to say any words. That the look on her face and that big old smile was plenty enough for me.
Is that the biggest moment you've had as a combat sports athlete? It would seem like it.
Award wise, yes, but going to a big stage and fighting on a big stage, I would say my biggest highlight is actually something that was on my bucket list, and that was fighting on a Floyd Mayweather card. Like that was been on my bucket list since 2013, and when it finally happened in 2021, that that was the end all be all for me. That was like my super big moment, and whew, I still think about that fight and being on that stage till this day because like every now and again it goes viral still to this day at least 3 to 4 times a year on all social media platforms, and then it just starts trending and people start tagging me in it and all stuff like that, and that's pretty dope.
And it seems like you have, pretty close ties to the individual that you boxed on that night, Chad Johnson, more widely known as Ochocinco. Like it seems like you guys have some rapport from what I can tell.
Yes, sir, man. Like after that fight, like he has become one of my biggest supporters in anything I do. If I post something on my social medias, he'll either retweet it or put it on his Instagram or put it on his page on Facebook or something. And I talk to him actually a lot. I'm actually wearing his gear from his podcast, Nightcap, and him and Shannon Sharpe. They send me stuff all the time. I'm actually going to be wearing some of their gear when I fly out Thursday to go to DBX, and those guys, they've shouted me out on the show several times, and I loved it, man. I like the camaraderie and I like the friendship.
Yeah, we got to get Shannon Sharpe and Ocho Cinco out to one of these dirty boxing events.
Well, I'm gonna just one of my coaches already know, and I've already talked to Chad about it. If he happens to be in town when I get there and his schedule is free, he actually is going to probably more 9 times out of 10 going to be at the fight and be in my corner with my coach at the fight. So that's breaking news. You heard it here first.
Well, that's incredibly exciting, man. And I mean, this is an incredibly exciting opportunity. Like, how long has this been on your radar for? Because we've mentioned the Harris Stephenson fight. And I mean, you've had some grappling contests from what I've seen since that last BKFC fight on your Tapology. But like, when did the, I guess, dialogue begin ramping up to get this dirty boxing championship fight? It looks like from what I'd seen on your social media, you've been in fight camp since January. Like, did you hear about it like circa January, or when did you hear about
No,
this dirty boxing offer?
before their first private event, I had seen that it was coming up, and I like the post, and the matchmaker, AJ, he actually messaged me, and you know, everything was all good and fine and dandy. I had an opponent and a fight person, all that good stuff, and the contract was going to be sent, but it was during the time where my mother was having more bad days with her dementia than good days, and she was on the cusp of, you know, still fighting and trying to hang on. And I'm not going to say luckily, my opponent that I had, he backed out because of an injury. So, they were trying to, scramble to find me someone else to fight. And then, like I told them, it's not even worth it at this point because, I got all this going on with my mother, and I didn't want to. If something happened when I was in Miami or something, and with my mother, I didn't want to have that burden of not being there and having that on my mind before a fight and having to either cancel the fight or fight with all those emotions going through all those emotions basically, and have to during that fight. So I'm kind of glad the fight was canceled, but things went on, and after my mom passed, she passed on like literally 2 hours before New Year's. She died on New Year's Eve, and after her funeral and stuff, I needed something to keep my mind busy, and just so happened the matchmaker messaged me and offered me the Uly fight, and I was like, hell yeah, I want that fight. I've been wanting that fight for a while now. Uly has actually called me out twice within the past year, but because I guess his opponents have fell out during fights for BK. Well, they're called BKB again now, but before they were BYB. And I didn't take the fights because they were 1 or 2 weeks notice, and I'm at the point in my career, I'm not taking any short notice fights. I want full fight camps like I've always have. Yes, I've taken a few short notice fights, like the first time me and him fought. I took that fight. I mean, it wasn't necessarily short notice, but I technically had like 4 weeks to prepare when I usually allow myself 6 to 10 weeks to prepare for a fight. And so I didn't take those fights then. And then when this opportunity came and I got a full fight camp, I said yes, respectfully.
So, do you think this fight will offer you a chance to have a better representation of your skills? Because I don't know if I misinterpreted what you said, but it seemed like even that first time you guys fought under bare knuckle rules at BKFC 10, like maybe the preparatory stages weren't as long as you would have ideally liked them to be. Like, do you think this fight will, I guess, give you a chance to show off a more comprehensive sense of your skill set because you've had more time to prepare?
Man, most definitely. Like I said before, that first bare knuckle fight, I had 4 weeks to prepare, and I was still in my learning a new sport phase. So I'm still trying to adapt and learn bare knuckle. And I got the call, and I had 4 weeks to prepare. So I did what I had to do in those 4 weeks. And with this fight coming up, man, this is great because everything that I've done before bare knuckle and while doing bare knuckle, and this is an MMA fighter's dream. This is basically everything that I've done before bare knuckle and still have been training consistently. You feel what I'm saying? And like this is gonna, even though everyone, well, I guess a part of his camp and his fans and others are heavily favored for him to win this fight. This is going to be a harder fight than he think it is because this dirty boxing has given me four, 3 to 4 of my tool set that I regularly train back to add to my arsenal. And with me adding that into something like this is it's a dream for me. And like I said, they're sleeping on me, and I wouldn't advise it.
Was there something that he said or posted or expressed that gave you that sense that maybe he's underestimating you in this, I guess, quasi rematch? I mean, it's a different combat sport, but yeah.
um, I think everybody is seeing from what happened our first fight, and of course, his fans are his fans, and my fans are my fans. Blah blah blah. We know how the fight game goes. If you got specific fans, they're going to be on your side regardless. But I've seen some basically, I feel like he is still banking off of thinking I'm the same person I was when we fought the first time, and I feel like there's a comment he made actually before we fought the first time, and he did a podcast, and they asked him how did they feel about me, how does he feel about me in a fight, and he said that he respects me for getting in there. I took that way overboard, and it went over my head, and it pissed me off to an extent because I felt like he thought I was just some bum off the street. You feel what I'm saying? And now the roles are reversed. Whether he believes it or not, anyone believes it. Of course, he's the hometown guy. I'm the heavy underdog going into this fight, but what a lot of them don't know, you probably cannot find them too many places, not even on YouTube, unless you scroll my social medias. That this is basically what I was doing before I did bare knuckle, and giving me my tools that I train regularly back to add to a fight is very, very, very dangerous.
And you've kind of touched on it a couple times as we've spoken, just the ability to get to use certain tools that you haven't gotten to utilize in a while. Like, what are your thoughts on the dirty boxing rule set? Just getting to use the 4 ounce gloves, elbows allowed, and the language of conditional ground and pound. Like, what are your thoughts on the dirty boxing championship rule set that they've instantiated there?
Man, I feel like the rule set is perfect. Like it's new, and it's perfect, and it's something that like I said, that I train all the time. Even for bare knuckle fights, some of this stuff that's implemented in their rules, I was, of course, being an MMA fighter, those are instant instincts for me. And we've seen what happened with my last fight. I got disqualified because of those instincts of if somebody hits the ground, I'm right there at them. But it was accidental. It wasn't on purpose. But like I said, giving me these tools back, I love the rule set. Like, yeah, I feel like it's made for me. And also, with that being said, too, I've been also trying to get into bare knuckle MMA, and there's been a whole spat with that, with guys not wanting to fight me in that sport either, because that really gives me all of my tools and my tool shed back, and it's been wild. And I haven't fought in basically a year and a half, but during that year and a half, I've been in the gym grinding and doing what I do. And as of Friday, I am down 30 pounds with this weight cut. I've had a very great fight camp. I had got a little hefty in this past year and a half. I took an old regiment and went back to the basics in this year and a half of lifting before I do my training. And then I would lift a little bit after my training. And you know, I'm gonna go ahead and tell you here too. My fight picture in that's posted, that's not me the size that I am now. That fight picture is actually from a weigh-in, a picture that before I weighed in for my my first Virginia fight, and I weighed 180 some pounds. And a lot of people really aren't used to seeing me walk around this size at 200 plus pounds. So that's going to be a shocker to possibly him and his team. And the work and the grinding and everything has been put in.
Yeah, and I mean, you touched on it to a certain extent, like in as far as like, oh, I had some fights lined up, but opponents kind of fell out, like, either not accepting or maybe the contract wasn't right. Is that basically
Hmm.
what it boils down to? Because it strikes me as very curious that your last BKFC fight was, fight of the night, Hall of Fame recognized, like all of these different accolades and attachments. It just strikes me as kind of interesting that you haven't fought in BKFC for the period of time you have. And it also seemed like how you kind of laid things out there that maybe there was some dialogue about fighting for BKB, now the former the former BYB, current BKB, albeit on short notice. So, like, why haven't you had those competitions pan out? Does it basically boil down to the opponent maybe didn't accept it or the contract wasn't right, just certain things of that nature?
With BKFC, everything has always been flawless. Everything has been great. I've had some fights mentioned and lined up, and of course, people have seen the progress and me getting better and better. And a lot of several, I could have fought at least in this past year and a half. I could have fought at the least 4 times, but each one of those times, the opponent has either backed out or they didn't want to take the fight before the contracts were sent out. And with the BYB BKB thing, there was no animosity there with BKFC. Like I told, the people that I needed to tell at BKFC, I never and will never leave BKFC. It was just a offer that was on the table, and you know, it, if I that it would have happened, it would have just been for one fight, so I could one fight and two be active. But there BKFC, it messes with me heavy, and we're still in good rapport. I actually have one of the guys that I train at my gym. He's actually, if everything goes well, he'll be fighting on a card in a couple months. His second fight will be on a card here in a couple months. And like I said, everything is good with BKFC. Doing this year and a half, things I've had some stuff lined up and they just fell through. And when this came along, it was, I'm not going to say perfect timing, but it was perfect timing to put me in focus mode and to get ready for something to keep my mind off my mother's passing.
Yeah, it seems like you still have like a good rapport with the promotion because I saw you gave like a shout out to the BKFC team and everything like that for allowing you to be present for like the BKFC tryouts in Philly there. What was that whole experience like? That seemed cool.
Man, that was awesome. They allowed me to come. They helped me out, and I helped a lot with Chris Lytle and Eddie Alvarez at the tryouts. I ran some drills with the guys. Of course, I had a super duper long line when it came to holding pads at tryouts with the guys, and man, it was wonderful. I loved it, and like I said, the Mr. Feldman, they shook, they like me, and I'm always when it comes to this fight world, anything I can do to help if I'm not being active or if I don't have anything to do, aka traveling a lot, I'm there to help and there to show my presence and let them know I'm one of those guys that's been riding for them since day one. And the experience in Philly was great. That was their biggest tryout besides the one that I went to for the first time in Philly. That one quadrupled it. It was great, man. There was a lot of fighters there. I know it was tough, not only for myself to help pick out guys that stood out, but I know it was tough on them to pick out guys that stood out too, man. Because I'm telling you, like I said, there was a lot of people there, and they're walking around looking at guys and stuff like that. I know it was hard because I know it was hard on me. One, being in the ring, well, the squared circle, I should say. Checking guys out doing their mid work, and also doing my breaks, walking around the ring, looking at the other guys doing work, and it was great, man. I love it. Like I said, anything that has to do with combat sports, I love it, man. And I tried to show support and give support to the ones that give support and show me support also.
Yeah, and a lot of people you were shouting out in that post are like people who've been largely pretty well entrenched in the promotion for many years now, just like you. But one of the names in there that's kind of been in the picture for, I guess, a bit shy of a year now, you shouted out Conor McGregor. I'm curious for someone who has been in the bare knuckle space for so long and BKFC specifically, like what are your thoughts on just what he's been able to do as a partial owner of BKFC and as far as like bringing that attention to the sport? It seems like the BKFC Philly tryout could have almost been a microcosm, like talking about how big it was and how much demand there was. But like, what have you seen in terms of the differences in terms of, I guess, signal boosting or just putting focus on bare knuckle and just, I guess, BKFC specifically with Conor McGregor helming the position he's been in?
I mean, it's been great, man. Of course, we're getting into different spaces, like different cities and different states, and also different countries because of his influence. And bare knuckle has actually, I say, from well, being on the inside and being on the outside looking in, I feel like the support and the eyes on bare knuckle have actually doubled since Conor McGregor has been there because Conor, he's the most famous athlete on the planet when it comes to combat sports, and his influence is large. And I think it's a great thing for bare knuckle, not just for the company, but for us fighters and for the fans and him popping in and out of shows and popping in and out of tryouts and making posts on his social media, shouting out BKFC and doing different things outside of BKFC while wearing BKF stuff. I think, like I said, that has doubled the eyes and the fan base on Bare Knuckle BKFC, and it's great. And I've been a Conor McGregor fan for a long time.
Yeah, for sure. I guess that kind of ties into the Mayweather thing a little bit, just in the sense of like the massive fight that they had. And I feel like I'll probably mention Mayweather again a bit later in a cursory way, at least. But I think one of the things that I was really curious to get your insights on was, I guess, just what it's like, working with Mike Perry in a promoter capacity. Obviously, a very well known former UFC fighter, has done great things in BKFC. Like, what has it been like working with Mike Perry in a promoter capacity with Dirty Boxing Championship?
It's actually been pretty good because you sometimes most promoters who are at the top, if you message them, they'll look at your message and won't message you back. But Mike Perry's very responsive, and if I tag him in something or share something, he'll share it to his social medias, and he's been very great to work with, and I like that. I like when promotions work with you and help grow you also as you're helping grow them. So that's cool. And plus, like I said, I've been at a few fight cards where Mike Perry been at and dapped him up and spoke to him and stuff. So that's been cool too. So that relationship has been good. And of course, I'll see him in a couple days. So that'll be cool too.
Yeah, and earlier you were talking about, having that awareness of their first event that was, private and wasn't available for public consumption. What were your thoughts on
Mhm.
that initial event? Like Yoel Romero obviously got a big viral KO and he'll be returning for this event that's now available to the public. But like what were your, I guess, overall first impressions of that initial event that they did that was closed to the public?
I actually thought it was awesome because I was actually boasted, even though I wasn't fighting, I still got the invite to come to the event. But like I said, when the event happened, was doing all of my stuff with my mother, so I couldn't make it. But they still sent me a link to be able to watch it, and watching it, of course, me being an observer, I'm watching and learning at the same time of what I can and can't do. If I ever, before I got the chance that I'm getting now, of getting the chance, I'm watching and learning of the rule sets, and I thought it was dope. And plus, all of the celebrities that were there, that was awesome for a private event. And the list of celebrities that are going to be there this time is pretty big. It's going to be a sold out event. Actually, right now, I have when I checked my ticket count, even though it's a ticket link, I have like over 50 some tickets sold from my link itself, which is crazy because it's in Florida. And some of my I got a decent base of followers from Florida because you can check all those analytics on Instagram and your social medias and stuff. And like when I checked it and it said 50 tickets sold, I was like, "Whoa, that's crazy!" I'm okay. That's pretty awesome. That's decent. And you know, right here, right now, I thank those people who have purchased tickets so far, and it's great. Like I can't wait to get there and be involved in everything. Like, and I don't know if you've seen it or not, but me and Uly are the featured fight of the night. I don't know if you've seen that yet, but we're the featured fight of the night. And a lot of people, I've seen some positive comments. Don't get me wrong. A lot of people are calling it fight of the night. So we're
And that's
here.
a Yeah, I was just gonna say that's a massive statement considering Yoel Romero is returning to this card. Former UFC heavyweight champion Andrei Arlovsky is fighting on the event. Definitely speaks volumes to that sentiment people are extending to yourself and Yuli.
Yes, sir. And also, a guy that I wrestled against many times, team wise. He's actually on the card too. He's a Bellator veteran and a PFL veteran, Bubba Jenkins. He's from my state too, and I've known him and known of him since I was in. We graduated the same year, by the way, but I've known Bubba since seventh or eighth grade. And that's wild to have a fellow Virginian on the same fight card that's been actively in the combat sports world. And it's great. And plus, I can't wait to see him so I can talk junk to him anyways.
Yeah, you were talking about the, celebrity presence at the private event. Like John Jones, I felt like was one of the big people that was getting discussed being present at that event. Like you were talking
Yes,
about the
sir.
list of people that are showing up for this, public event that they're doing. Like who are some of the, I guess, big combat sports celebs that are coming out for this one that you're privy to?
From I don't know if it's true or not, but I heard Roy Jones Jr. might be there. I heard a couple of the Miami Dolphins football players may be there, and of course some. If I don't, if I think they have a game that day, but I'm not for sure. But some of the Miami Marlins players are going to be there. And I heard Rick Ross was going to be there. He's a rapper.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, and I told you earlier that Ochocinco may be with me or appearing there too. And it's going to be a star-studded event. And I think it's I say I think it's like 80% sold out already, and it's just now going into fight week. So it's going to be cool.
Yeah, no, I mean, incredible stuff, man. Like, I definitely wanted to set up an interview right when I saw the bout announcement between yourself and Yuli get made. I mean, it's just great that other people are looking at it through the same kind of lens because both of you have such proven action intensive styles. So, definitely some exciting stuff. One thing I did kind of want to briefly touch on, though, that's not necessarily fight related, but seemed kind of cool. I was noticing that you're a pretty big hockey fan by all accounts, and I saw you went to my neck of the woods, at least in as far as like the country. You went to Canada and you checked out
Yes,
little Edmonton
sir.
Oilers action, I think. What was that whole Canada foray like for you?
Man, I absolutely loved Canada. The food was great because it's more natural. Um, man, like the whole atmosphere of Canada was like, even though it was cold as hell, was cool. And plus, I'm a big hockey fan too. The first hockey game I ever went to in my life was in third grade. Uh, we had a semi-pro hockey team here, and my third grade teacher took me and a few other students to our first hockey game. And I've been a hockey fan ever since then. And of course, all kids during my era love the Mighty Ducks. So that has been one of my favorite teams. And going to Canada and getting out in the airport and seeing the all the hockey stuff and the football team stuff was like crazy. Like I have so much content from Canada that I haven't even put out yet. That I'm holding hostage basically, and like man, I actually was ate at a restaurant while in Canada where their hockey team practices literally right beside the restaurant, and they got the glass to where you can see them practice. And of course, me being a big hockey fan, also, kind of fanboying out, like, oh man, this is wonderful. And I recorded some stuff while I was there, and it's pretty dope, man. Like Canada, I would love to go back to Canada again. I actually got an invite to fight in Canada, but something happened with flights and something happened with an opponent, and so I didn't. I was going to do a bare knuckle MMA fight there, and some stuff happened. That was one of the fights that got canceled last year too. And I like Canada. Canada's a cool place, even though it was cold.
I'm just kind of putting a guess out there just because of my knowledge of the scene, I guess. I'm kind of making an inference. Like, was that bare knuckle MMA fight with Rumble in the cage in Lethbridge, maybe?
Man, that's crazy. How'd you know
Just took a guess.
that? Yeah, but yeah, that's what it was for. Yeah, and something happened and it just didn't happen, I guess. So it's cool, but I would love to go back to Canada to fight, or just go there to on a vacation just to relax and chill out and watch some